Hi, I'm Rob Rader, and this video is about finding notes on the bass guitar neck. One of the questions that's real common to get from a beginner bass student is how do I find, say, a B flat on the bass neck, or what does this fret make? What note is this? And that can be pretty overwhelming if you're just new to the bass guitar because, here, for example, is a 24 fret fretboard, 5 strings on it. We could also play those strings open. So that's really a total of 125 different places that we could be playing notes on the bass, which is a lot. The good news is that there's only 12 notes, and they're all in exactly the same order on every string. Got that good news? Okay, here's the next part. The notes in music are all named after letters of the alphabet, and they're named after the first 7 letters of the alphabet. That's one of the things that can make music a little weird and a little arcane and strange to get used to. The fact is that hundreds and hundreds of years ago when music first started getting codified and kind of documented as a form of art, it was a little bit simpler than it is today. Most of what people did was not quite as harmonically or melodically complex as what we've got going on these days. And so 7 notes really seemed like an adequate place to get started. So they used the first 7 letters of the alphabet to name those notes: A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. We have an A string. It's in the middle if you're on a 5 string. It's the second biggest string if you're on a 4 string bass, and it makes a note A that'll sound like this. A little further up that string, there's a B, and then there's a C. We have a D, an E, an F, G, and after that, things start repeating again. We hit this octave A, and then there's another B, another C, another D, etc., etc. So that takes care of these so-called natural notes. Natural in music means a note that only has a letter of the alphabet for its name and nothing else. But we have a few more notes in between that we need to deal with. So remember the open A string? That note is an A, and then on the second fret of that string, there's a B. So what about that first fret? That's an in-between note. If you listen to it, you can hear that that note is definitely higher than A, but not really high enough to be a B. That's what the B sounds like. So as music goes on and gets a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more complex, they could have just added more alphabet letters, but then we'd have a system that went A, H, B, C, I, D, and that would be even more confusing and weird than what we've got right now. So what ended up happening was the notes that are kind of in between the natural notes were named using the terms sharp and flat, which probably already existed for tuning purposes. Sharp means high in music, so this note that's higher than A, but not high enough to be a B, could be called an A sharp. On the other hand, if we wanted to go the other way, this note is also lower than a B, but not low enough to be an A. So that note is also sometimes called B flat. So what that means, our set of 12 notes start with an A, the next note up, sometimes called A sharp, and sometimes called B flat. Then we have a B, and then we go directly to C. The next note is sometimes called C sharp, and sometimes called D flat, and after that we have a D. The note after that is very often called E flat, sometimes called D sharp. Then we have an E. E has got nothing in between it and F, but the note in between F and G is called F sharp or G flat, then G sharp or A flat, and then A. And that's the complete set of notes that exists. All the other notes on the bass neck or anywhere else in what you or I would think of as a normal musical instrument, any kind of guitar, keyboard, any other stringed instrument, any horn instrument, all the same 12 notes. So what about all of those other 125 places that we can play notes? What notes are going on there? The answer is that they are octaves of the notes that we've started with. An octave is a note that sounds the same as its other octaves, but lower or higher. And it's easier if we just listen to it. So here's an A. An octave sounds like this. Another octave, about like that. Notice that all those octaves of A, I've got them all over the place, have a really similar sound to each other. If I play, that sounds like a different note. Or if I go from an A to here, that sounds like something different. But these guys all sound just like higher or lower versions of the same note, and that's what octaves are. If you're technically inclined, you might want to know that octaves are direct multiples of the frequencies that we started with. So an open A string, if your bass is in tune, would be a 55 cycle per second note. A an octave higher is 110 cycles. Go another octave higher, that's 220. And I don't have a fretted one, but maybe I can get a harmonic. Here's the 440 cycle A. That's the reference point for tuning. So if you're looking for a note that you need to play, or if you're trying to figure out the name of the note that you're playing to communicate with another musician, always remember that there's 7 natural notes named after the first 7 letters of the alphabet. In between those notes are the so-called accidental notes that also have sharp or flat in their name. The only places in the stream where there are no accidentals are between B and C, or between E and F. Everywhere else on the bass neck, there's a note between that has a sharp name or a flat name. So here's C on the 3rd fret of the A string, and on the 5th fret there's a D. That 4th fret note can be called C sharp, or it can be called D flat. Every single string in the bass works exactly the same way. They just start at different places in the stream. But from there on out, it's all alternating naturals and accidentals, first 7 letters of the alphabet. That's it.